Welcome to Self-Awareness and Emotional Regulation. This is our wrap-up session where we're going to just recap what we've done over the last 4 sessions and briefly tie it all together. I want to start by looking at John 14:27. It says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." This is a scripture that reminds us that peace is something that we have access to, and that having our hearts be troubled and afraid is an emotional response that Jesus is saying we don't have to have. So as we look at the last 4 sessions that we've done, the key learning in these sessions is emotions drive thought, which drive behaviors, and thoughts are the link between emotions and behaviors. So if there's one thing you take away from this in a key learning, that's it. And tools, I want you to have some tools in your toolbox. And the tools from these last 4 sessions are first the feelings wheel that's going to be able to help us identify emotions, and peace and calm buckets, which I hope you continue to develop as you identify things that can bring you peace and calm throughout your day. So as we start our recap, I want to go back to the definitions. The definition of self-awareness is the ability to recognize one's own emotions, thoughts, and values, and how they influence our behavior. Right there in the definition, we have emotions, thoughts, and behavior. That's why these 3 pieces are so important when we look at emotional regulation and self-awareness. Because then the emotional regulation is the process we use to manage and respond to those emotional experiences in appropriate, healthy, and adaptive ways. It is literally the process of connecting our emotions to our behaviors with our thoughts. And we learned that our thoughts reside in our subconscious mind for the most part. We've got our conscious mind, but that only accounts for about 10% of our thoughts because of the limited amount of information it can process one time. But this is where our logic and our reasoning lie, where our intentional responses are going to be. And so typically, when we are responding to our emotions impulsively, it's coming from our subconscious mind because that's where our behaviors and habits reside. That's where our reacting without thinking resides, where our feelings and emotions live, are in the subconscious mind, which you don't control. It just automatically happens. And that's a good thing that it automatically happens because we can't possibly take in everything that happens around us. It's one of the amazing aspects that God created with our brains, but He gave us that 10% in our conscious mind, and He told us we needed to work on that. We need to take our thoughts captive. And so how do we start doing this? Well, we go back to that affect labeling. You start this simply by naming the emotions. It can change how your brain processes it. So if you're able to label what you're feeling, I feel disappointed or I feel anxious, that is the first step of bringing the subconscious emotion, behavior, and thought into the conscious mind. We first acknowledge what you're feeling. Then we ask why, and then we become aware of how we're responding, how we're behaving, and we can say, is that how I want to behave? Is that how I want to respond? Or do I want to do it differently? So if we start with those emotions, the feelings wheel is definitely your friend in this. And we want to try to get out from those 7 emotions in the middle. Those are the secondary emotions, remember? And we're trying to get to the primary emotion, what's really under it. So if I think I'm feeling sad, I can identify what's going on inside my body saying, I'm sad. Maybe I want to cry. Maybe I'm just upset and I've got a tight chest or my muscles are a little bit tense. But if I look at it and I'm actually feeling powerless or maybe shamed or maybe abandoned, those are different. The thoughts connected to those are different than just sad. So why am I feeling specifically ashamed versus sad? I'm feeling ashamed because of some reason to a specific situation is bringing up that emotion. And then I can decide if I'm reacting to it the way I want to, or if I want to behave differently when I feel ashamed. And we also learned that as we identify these emotions, we connect thought to them of why we're feeling them in this particular situation, and we are able to better control our reaction. That self-control and emotional regulation are more likely to happen when we've experienced and established peace and calm in our daily routines. So identifying what brings you peace, what brings you calm, and most importantly, putting it into your daily routines. So looking at the definitions, the environment, the emotional state, physical state, mental state, and behavior related to both of these, you were able to identify in your buckets activities that bring you calm, activities that bring you peace. Hopefully you add at least 3 in each of them, and start finding ways that you can bring them into your daily routine. What is it that produces the calm, the steady breathing, the loose muscles, feeling energized, quiet and clear, rational thinking that's calm? What brings you peace? That inner sense that regardless of the situation, you have harmony, you have contentment and balance. You can still be joyful even if things around you seem like you wouldn't be. If they're difficult circumstances, if things are happening that seem to be piling on you, you still have the ability to find contentment, balance, and joy. And so when we do that, remember, putting it into your daily routines can help you create the muscles that will recall emotional regulation for peace and calm. So once again, key learning from the last 4 weeks. Emotions drive thoughts, which drive behavior, and thoughts are the link between our emotions and our behaviors. You have the feelings wheel, you have your peace and calm buckets, and you are on your way to better being self-aware, emotionally regulated.